Sabs. Yeah, so just to recap before we go into the content of this section, what we've spoken about in the last two. So this is session 3 of 3. Session 1 was very much the foundational element of any sort of campaign planning. So the pure marketing fundamentals, what must we have in order to get any activity off the ground. So we did a strategy stage deep dive. We did a channel mix overview. We led with some channel recommendations in terms of the work we've done with partners in the past. I know there's a couple on the call who we've worked with. So some of the recommendations that we know have worked there. We led with some benchmark stats, and then there was a couple of templates as well, just in terms of creating that very, very basic go-to-market plan strategy. And then earlier today, we focused on how we build upon those foundations. So how we take that basic tactical piece of activity, layer it on to become more of a strategic campaign. We did some workflow and automation examples. We spoke about the importance of user journey mapping. We led a little bit on retargeting, behavioral analysis, and we've exited that on SEO, on how we could drive good value opportunity through optimizing for search. So this is the content look. It looks content light for this session, but actually number 2 and 3 are quite hefty pieces of presentation to go through. If you've got any questions during, please feel free to ask, use the chat. Sabs will try and answer. If not, I can answer as well. Or you can feel free to reach out to Sabs and I after the session, or wait until the end and then ask any questions there. We'll probably need about 45 minutes to an hour, I think, to go through everything. But as I said, if you've got any questions whilst we do go through, please do, just feel free to shout out. So we're going to focus on, or we're going to start at least with the important strategy. We've covered the same 2 slides across everything, just for the benefit of those who are new and haven't been to any of the other 2 sessions. I know we've got a few returners from this morning. We just want to start with why we're creating a go-to-market strategy. Ultimately, it keeps us focused. It helps us map out those objectives and be accountable for them. So it helps us say, we want to achieve X number of leads, this value pipeline, and just helps us map out what those objectives are, making sure that they're smart, and then how we're going to get there. So the reasonable steps, the tactics, the campaign, the channel mix that we're going to be using. And it also holds individuals and teams accountable. So we know who's owning that plan, we know who's involved, and then if the plan doesn't go as it should, we know who ultimately is accountable for that. And then just a caveat to end with, without structure, results are unlikely. And we've seen it time and time before, where there's a very, very clear plan, even if it is basic, which says we're going to use this platform for this, we're going to put this message here. It just makes things a lot more likely to be fruitful. And then apologies for those who were here this morning, but this is just our active profiles campaign wheel, which we have developed out and which we use on all campaigns we do. So we split it into 4 sections: strategy and insights, campaign design and build, execution and optimization, and then the report and review phase. So strategy and insights is just about how we set objectives and making sure they're smart. Audience and persona definition is around who is it exactly we're talking to. Is it IT managers? Is it finance directors, etc.? Then we go into the creation of the plan, and we've got 2 previous sessions that we've ran, and you can view the recordings where we go into that in more detail. Then we look at the campaign messaging, which should be target persona driven. So who are we talking to in point 2? Making sure that the messaging, if it's going to speak to a finance audience, is around cost and ROI and ease of use and that sort of stuff. Then number 5 is about how we create content with intent, and we'll focus on that quite heavily in this session. Obviously, to do a full funnel campaign, we need to have the content to enable us to do so. So that's just about creating content, not for the sake of creating content, but something that is going to be useful, something that ties into the persona audience we're going after, and something where the message is really on point. Then once we've got all that irons out, we go into the campaign build process, which is where we write content and design it up and build landing pages and email templates and automation and set up all our ads and retargeting and that sort of stuff. Then execution and optimization is the physical launch, so pushing the button on ads, pushing the button on the automated workflow, so that when someone meets the criteria, they start to go through the stages that we've mapped out, and then just really understanding the data as we go through that campaign. So looking at the impressions, the clicks, the click-through rate, what leads are coming through, what quality they are, where they're coming from, the messaging that people are engaging with, the ad copy, the ad creative that is driving the best results, seeing what we can gauge as an insight from that, and then doing more of that, seeing where results maybe are lacking, making optimizations, making changes to drive the absolute best value opportunity that we can. Then the last stage does what it says in the tin. We've got reporting, which is very objective, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 impressions, so many clicks, so many leads, top engaged job titles, etc., which is very, very objective. We can't dispute it. And then the review element is purely focused on hearts and minds. So the campaign team who were involved, whether it's yourselves, agencies, internal colleagues, what did we enjoy from the process? What did we learn? What did we like? What did we long for? Just so that next time we've got a full comprehensive review of the activity, we've got a good foundation to start from, and we can hit the ground running, having addressed any issues from last time, such as, well, marketing didn't create the landing page until too late, or sales didn't follow up on leads. We can just address that. Then into the next plan, we can just start to kind of counteract those issues that we faced. So that is the example process that we take everyone through. It's tried and tested, it works. If you're doing your own activity, following something along this sort of scale is likely to get you an effective campaign plan. Obviously, you may focus heavier on some things where you've got insights in terms of personas and whatnot, but this is a tried and tested model. Then we go into the crux of the session then, and how we build out an integrated full funnel campaign. Put my teeth back in. So why is a full funnel important? I think it's really important that we just address the first line there. So very rarely two buyers are the same. They might have the same job title, they might be from similar companies, they might be in similar locations, they might have a similar background in terms of university experience, but they're probably in two different stages of a cycle, depending on who they are, whether they are IT managers, IT directors, finance directors, whatever. They're probably very, very different in terms of the business setup, where they are in that cycle. So are they ready to make a purchase? Are they just annoyed that their current existing IT software tools or MSP that they're working with just isn't answering what they need it to do, or they need them to do? So we need to accept that that is a very true reflection of all prospect data. Very rarely two customers are the same. We might have similarities in terms of 12 months or 24 months in between, but they're very rarely the same. So we need to speak to them in a way that resonates with them. And that's why the full funnel is so important, because it treats everyone as individuals. We make assumptions in terms of content types, but we treat people on an individual, and we should only really move people through the funnel where the data suggests that they're ready to have the next conversation. So people may not be ready to make a purchase, and they might not even know they need to make a purchase. We'll focus more on the awareness, consideration, and decision stages of the funnel shortly. But it's important that we accept that somebody at the awareness stage has no idea they're going to need to buy something at some point. And if we try and hit them with a sell too early on, we're never going to get to that point. They're going to identify they need something, but they might go elsewhere. So it's important that an effective full funnel brings together brand and demand. And what we mean by that is brand is obviously brand awareness, creating awareness of who you are, what you do, where you're located, what services you offer, etc. Demand ultimately is what everyone's here for today. I don't think anyone here is here because they don't want new leads, they don't want to create additional business. So it's about how we bring both of those together with a net new audience. If we're going after somebody who has no idea about us, we want them to know they need to buy something, but we need to give them the trust and credibility in us that we can deliver it. So you've got the two circles on the left where brand and demand meet, and then you've got the funnel in terms of what we're doing at each stage of that. So at the top of that funnel, it's all around brand building, creating awareness of a person's challenge, but also us as a business. In the middle, we've got the consideration stage, which is where we're trying to build trust and credibility in us as an IT provider, as an MSP. And then the bottom really is about how we're building our pipeline through creating awareness, getting people to consider us as a provider, and then get them to have a valuable sales conversation with us. And then I just thought it'd be good to prompt the question: if you don't know somebody, how likely would you be to buy a car from a complete stranger? I think it works in exactly the same respect here. I get Auto Trader, motor trader or motor whatever, motor range, you will go and buy, but you're based on a kind of a guarantee maybe from a provider. You're based on ratings. You might go and view the car, but you're very likely to buy a car off a stranger on the street, is what I suppose I'm trying to say. And it's exactly the same process here. So first things first, in order to do any of this, we need to think about what technologies do we have available that's going to support this activity, because a full funnel campaign can't be done manually. Well, it can, but it can't be done effectively manually. So we need to be able to support multi-channels, and session 1 of this series touched on the full kind of multi-channel approach, where you could bring in paid activity and activity. So you could do PR if you had a really compelling story. You could do shared content, so organic social, that sort of stuff. And then we could bring in websites, we could bring in ads, we could bring in a full range of different channels. In order to do a full funnel effectively, we need to have some level of automation that is possible. So whether that's through Dynamics or another platform, we need to be able to execute that. Otherwise, a full funnel campaign just isn't scalable. And if we're going to look at taking our business to the next level and we're doing a full funnel campaign, we want to put volume in at the top to get value out at the bottom. So we need to have that automation in place to support that. We need to be able to retarget. And if you came to the session earlier on, one of the key benefits of the retargeting process is it just helps us to drive down cost per acquisition, because acquiring a click and a lead from a first time click is a lot more expensive than a retargeting click. And actually, if someone has already been onto our website, if they've already seen our ads, if you think about the brand building, trust, credibility building, pipeline building, they're a lot closer to that trust and credibility element, because they've seen our brand before, they've seen our message, they were inquisitive and they were curious enough to click. They haven't been curious enough to convert, but if we keep talking to them, we're going to start to generate that interest. And then we just need really probably the most important part of any full funnel campaign. We need to have really effective tracking and reporting. If we can't track and if we can't report, we've got no way of knowing if the full funnel is working, if stages individually are working, because every single part of the process needs to work for optimum engagement, and ultimately to drive the brand awareness, the trust and credibility, and then to drive demand and pipeline into the business. We need to make sure we've got all of these things. Obviously, there are more things, and each of these different bullet points can be broken down into additional sub-items, but ultimately we need to have a tech stack that really supports the full funnel campaign process. And without that, activities just don't and will not work. There's just 3 examples of some of the more enterprise level platforms on the right, which do drive engagement. A lot of you will be using Dynamics 365, probably can unlock more from that. Just a really good platform to do that. It sits in existence with probably your Microsoft stack anyway. It's something that through the P2P network or through yourselves, you can actually sell to customers. So just having a basic understanding, it's just going to help you with those sales processes as well. So what does a full funnel process look like? Obviously, we've got the element that no two buyers are the same. They're not ready to purchase. They may not know they need to purchase, but actually we need to take them from awareness through to consideration, arriving at decision. We're going to go into those in much more detail shortly, but getting familiar with those terminologies, awareness, consideration, decision, it's just going to help you shape the content that you're creating, the campaign approaches you are taking, and it's going to help you just drive that brand building, trust and credibility building, and then ultimately pipeline building as well. So getting into the funnel a little bit more, and we'll just spend a few minutes covering what the funnel actually is. If we go from left to right, we've got 3 clear, does what it says in the tin, titles really. You've got top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel. And as you can see, like any funnel, it gets slimmer as you get towards the bottom, and that's the reality of the sales process. And I think we can probably all agree on this call now. You might put 10 people in the top. We might have a conversation with 2 of them. We might get 1 sale out of it if we're lucky. It's the same sort of process with the full funnel, top, middle, and bottom. But what does that actually mean in terms of where people sit in that process? So we've got the awareness stage, which is where people are likely to be completely passive. they're open to engaging with content. They might read a blog, they might download an ebook because it's got a really interesting title, but actually they are not interested in anything else, really. What they might engage with is really top level research studies. If it tells them the priorities that people are going to focus on next year, they might download ebooks where it might be focused on specific solutions. So how to overcome security fears in 2022. They're going to engage with organic social posts. They might read a press release, or they might see a press release on social. They are probably going to engage with infographics, really top level emails, and they might read blogs. They might watch a vlog, they might watch a video on YouTube. So that's where we are for awareness. Really, really light content pieces, not too salesy. We're not salesy at all, not too brand focused, just more around helping me understand that actually you understand the pain points and the challenges that I'm facing as an end user. That's what that section's all about. Then we go into this slightly further down into the consideration stage, which is where people are actively researching or considering or considering different solutions. So again, a lot of the same content type, because there are content types that will hit multiple things depending on what the title is, but we could have ebooks around how Microsoft 365 Business is driving productivity and collaboration, or how it's at the forefront of cybersecurity in 2022. That's how an ebook could fit into it. We could do webinars, which talks about how Microsoft 365 Business and Premium specifically has solved business solutions, has made things much more secure, has given peace of mind. We could have product videos. I know Microsoft has a lot of these. You could create some yourselves. You could do animations, video, talking heads. So you could get your technical experts in front of a camera talking about why Business Premium is the go-to solution for cybersecurity, for remote working, whatever you decide that theme or title is going to be. We could have demo screenshots if there was a product that you wanted to show the back end to, just to show purely how easy it is to use. Then you've also got obviously social media, paid and organic would be effective content types there. And then emails again. If you think about emails, can be used really across the funnel, across the awareness, consideration and decision stages. And then lastly, at that arriving at the decision stage where you're likely to have the smallest number of people is where the solution is right for their problem and they're ready to buy. So whether that's from you or someone else, that's really the stage we want to be at. That's where we're going to have meaningful sales conversations. That is the stage really where we're going to be able to associate a pipeline value, where we're going to have real good quality businesses conversations, create proposals, do cost competitive analysis, that sort of stuff. And then the content for that is really where we just prove that we're the MSP that they need to come to, rather than any of our competitors or anybody else they've researched. So looking at case studies, looking at client or customer testimonials, looking at frequently asked questions around solutions, around cost benefits, that sort of stuff. And I'm sure within your own businesses, you've got lots of examples of questions that people ask you regularly, which you could quite easily create into one of those documents. I think the beauty of those questions is they are all things you could turn into longer form content. So if you're constantly asked why someone should pay $22 per license per month per user, I think coming back to Sab's slide earlier around actually if they counted up the cost of having everything individually, it's $40. So there's an $18 saving they could be making a month. They bring it all into one specific place. They can suddenly have greater productivity and collaboration across the team. They can communicate much more effectively through Microsoft Teams. They can obviously collaborate documents with SharePoint, that all those sorts of stuff, plus the enhanced security benefits, which they're not going to get by having everything separately. They're exposed to individual risks by having it that way. You could take them through the demo, so rather than just showing demo screenshots on the website, you could actually take someone through it, start to understand their problems that they're facing or the solution, how it could improve their working environment, and tailor that demo to them. We do a lot of demos for our CRM platform that we promote, and it just being able to kind of tailor that session to someone just helps you get that close to the sale, because you say, okay, this is the problem you've got. here's how you could do it, and you just show them physically how that would be done. You could do battle cards, solution briefs. I'm sure you're used to those in terms of product comparisons, how they compare, just some ideas of some of the different content types that you could be using at each stage of the funnel. So what's that actually look like in terms of how you're mapping things out? So obviously you've got, from a website point of view, you've got service pages, you might have downloadable content pages if you've done a report, and there's an example of a report you might do later on, ebooks, infographics, and anything that you think is worth someone giving the details for, absolutely gate it, put a form in front of it, and start to capture information. You're going to have blogs and case studies on the website. From a content creation point of view, there's just some examples there which we've covered an overview of, and then the structure and process is the kind of bit behind all of this website and content, which actually executes, brings together, and it's going to drive everything forward. It's great putting loads of content on the website. It's great creating really nice branded emails and videos, but if there's no engine to drive it, it then becomes a very manual process, and nobody's got time for that. You're all growing businesses. You're all here because you want to continue to grow and you want to start doing more business and you want to drive your Microsoft revenues. You can't scale if things are manual. So we need the effective tech stack. We need that email automation capability. We need to have the nurture program, which talks about how to take someone from awareness to consideration to decision. We need to have an effective SEO plan in place where we're driving really good on-target traffic. We need to be looking at PPC, whether that's paid social or Google, Microsoft ads. And we need that retargeting engine as well. Otherwise, we're going to bring people in at a really expensive cost, and then we're going to lose them. And then we're going to pay the same cost to bring them back because we're not being strategic around that user journey map. And then just the age-old analogy, Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't really necessarily need to have everything for day one. You can quite easily layer up a full funnel campaign. If we think about the sales cycle, your sales cycle might be 12 months or 6 months if you're lucky. I know some of the partners we've spoken to where things are more complex and the bigger orders, the decision-making process within your end-user business is a lot more long-winded. We need to be creating content and just adding into it. So we might go live with 4 pieces and 4 emails in our workflow. Every fortnight we're adding another one, and we're just making sure that the delay between each com is enough to allow us the time to put it in without it all falling over. But you just got to be disciplined with it. Just got to be ready to create new content. Doesn't need to be dissertation length, a couple of 100 words for a blog or creating a video, 5 minutes in front of a camera. Just different content types and testing those messages is just going to help you get there. And so when we think about content, we also need to think about lead definition. And I think that's where a lot of partners have kind of fallen down in the past, where we think about, we just treat everybody the same. So is our contact far enough down the funnel for the content that we're going to send them? So just a reminder around the awareness, consideration, decision phase. We need to treat leads how they should be treated and how they expect to be treated. And just some questions to pose to you here. Do you pass every single lead straight to a sales rep and then hope for the best? Do you wonder why newsletter subscribers or email downloads fail to close? How do you define marketing and sales leads? Because they're very, very different, and we've had a very varied experience when we've asked this question to partners. So it's just to understand and just to get you thinking about treating them very, very differently. So I just wanted to show this at this point. This is HubSpot's inbound sales methodology, which talks about how we take a stranger to a customer and the different stages along the way. Obviously, the awareness, consideration, decision fits nicely at the bottom. We're looking at taking strangers, making them leads, making them qualified leads, then they become opportunities, and we can take that down a further level here. So a lead simply is somebody who indicates interest in engaging with your business, but you don't quite know the level of engagement. So an example there is, I come onto your website today, I sign up for your newsletter, I download an ebook, I download the report, I'm engaging with you, but at no point have I said, hey, let's have a conversation. I'm just purely engaging. If I didn't have to give you my email to download the ebook or the report or access the newsletter, I probably wouldn't. I think it's important we remember that. Then the next level down is a marketing qualified lead, somebody who has engaged with your marketing team's efforts. So an ad or SEO, filled in a form, anything like that. So an example there is somebody who engages with various solution-based emails but hasn't necessarily completed a discovery form. So I might have come onto your newsletter, you've then sent me email about a blog, you've then sent me the ebook, you've then sent me a webinar. I've come along to them, but at no point have I said, hey, let's have a sales conversation until we get to the sales qualified lead process. And again, if you think about it as a funnel, your leads probably sit somewhere close to the awareness stage. Your your marketing qualified lead, sits somewhere in the consideration. And then as you get down to the decision stage, they're probably likely to become more sales qualified because we're having very different conversations. I'm engaging very differently with your business. So sales qualified leads are prospective customers, someone that's ready to talk to the sales team, someone who's expressed interest in product or service, and really I'm ready to start to have that sales process conversation with you. So I've completed an inquiry form which is specific to a product or service rather than just like a general contact form where I've asked for advice. I'm actually proactively saying, I'm interested in this product. I'm interested in finding out more about Microsoft 365 for Business or Business Premium specifically. You know, can someone come back to me so I can have a conversation around cost, process, ongoing support, contracts. And then I just want to focus on effort versus reward. I think for a lot of partners, it probably will feel very ambitious and time consuming. It doesn't have to be. I think that the time and effort consumption is upfront. Same with most things. Setting up an effective Microsoft practice is a lot of time and effort upfront. But once you've done it, it kind of looks after itself. You're just then taking it to market. You're then looking at, okay, well, how do I get it in front of somebody else? It's the same process with a full funnel. Once you do the legwork in terms of setting up the tech stack, creating the initial content, you're just layering on each time. You're just adding in a content piece and letting a lot of the automation do itself. So the pros really are, we started to engage with people in a really strategic and nurturing way. Being too salesy early on really puts buyers off. An optimized full funnel is proven to generate higher value opportunities, and a lot of it can be automated. Once we've set up the foundations, we can just drive a lot of it through tech, just adding new people in and keeping an eye on it and checking it and making optimizations. We can just automate so much of that manual process. So if you're sitting there and you think, you know, we get a lead through, sales team ring them. If they don't answer, they send them a solutions brief, and then a week later they mark in their calendar and they send them a blog. That's just not a good use of people's time. Your salespeople should be focused on dealing with inbound inquiries because you've got an effective SEO strategy, you do an effective advertising, and you go into events and you do networking, or they should be focused on being much more proactive in identifying opportunities, linking in with them, bringing them into this funnel through content and that sort of stuff. The cons, it does require a lot of time in terms of creating new content, in terms of optimization and reviewing, but it is worth it. And then the biggest upfront con is you need to have a tech stack in place. And if you don't have it at the moment, there's a time and effort here to go and identify the right one for you. It could well be Dynamics. You know, it's something that you could probably just plug in fairly quickly. You know, you as partners, you may have a good experience with it anyway. That could well be the solution for you. But just think about it, you know, in terms of how long it takes to close a new deal, that's how much content you need to be creating in terms of the effort. But the reward will follow as a result of that quite easily and quite quickly. Anyone got any questions on the full funnel approach before we just show you a really working example? We've got a draft plan that we've created, which would lend itself nicely to Microsoft 365 for Business, just so you can see how the theory comes to life. So this essentially is a plan template that would just lay everything out quite quickly and simply. No, okay. So we'll just go straight into it then. So within our plan, we tend to try and be really layman's terms about it. So what we're trying to achieve, who we're talking to, what we're going to do, what we're going to measure, just helps it just tell a really simple and straightforward story. So what are we trying to achieve? 3 example objectives here. You will have your own in your own business. So top level, we're trying to create awareness around Microsoft 365 Business Premium. Number two, we're trying to engage new prospective customers who might be worried about business security, because we might have identified that actually through the conversations we've been having, through research we've conducted, security is a real pinch point area. You know, Sab's up front at the front of this deck talked about 1 in 3 businesses being exposed, maybe 2/3 nearly businesses going under if they're exposed to one, or maybe not being able to recover. I think we just need to, we can think about these things and think about, okay, they're the pain points and the challenges that are most pressing. Yeah, cost might be an issue, but the business won't exist if they can't address the security issue. So primary message might be security, secondary message might be cost, third message might be remote working, because a lot of businesses are in a swing of hybrid at the moment and it seems to be working. We found through 2 years of the pandemic, people can work from home, businesses can still grow, scale, make money. So that maybe is less of a concern for the majority of businesses these days, but security is the standout issue, which is why we've chosen it here. And then we ultimately want to create a pipeline of opportunity that can be nurtured so that we can generate net new customers. Objective 4 could quite easily be, let's put a value on that opportunity. We want to create £500,000 worth of pipeline, so not sales, pipeline. And then number 5 might be, based on our conversion rate of 1 in 3, for example, we want to convert £133,000 worth of business as a result of this full funnel campaign. Obviously, you'll know internally yourselves what that's likely to be, and you'll have your own ideas in terms of what you want that ROI to be. But setting out these objectives from the offset, if we think about what we said up front, just helps people become accountable, helps us become focused, and then we can all work toward a shared end goal. So who are we talking to? So we've just pulled out some of the influencers and decision makers that we might want to engage. So from an influencer point of view, we've got IT as a function, we've got operations as a function, and we might be engaging with IT managers, IT directors, same counterparts for operations. We've just pulled out some key sectors and industries that we might want to focus on. So we might say, actually, we've identified, based on our customer acquisition over the last 12 months, our key most profitable industries are those working in professional services, those specifically in finance, and actually retail is a really emerging sector or market for us. So we're going to focus on, from an influencer point of view, getting in front of IT and ops within those sectors. And then we might say, right, okay, the decision makers, the people who are actually going to buy from us within these same sectors, are those working in IT ops, but those at more C-level. So those who are either owner manager, CEO, CIO, CTO, CFO. We're going to go after some of those as decision makers, but we accept that sometimes it's more beneficial to hit the influence with our message, who's going to do the legwork for us. If we go straight for the decision maker who might be running a really, really busy business, we haven't always got necessarily the time to get in front of them. They might not be on the platform, they might not be interested in the conversation right now, but going after the influencers, they'll have the conversation for us and they'll do a lot of the legwork. We just need to give them and arm them with the tools, the business case, the ROI data, the stats, the testimonials, the proof points that it's the right solution and we're the right MSP for them to go for. So what are we going to do? We've just split this into really, really tangible things. So thinking about a full funnel campaign, thinking about the awareness, consideration, decision stage, we just put in here, again, this is all dummy data and dummy messaging, but let's do a data-led report. We're going to speak to IT decision makers and influencers across the UK to find out their priorities for the 12 months ahead. We're then going to analyse that data to understand what our campaign focus could be, because we might make an assumption here that security and business security is the most important thing to them. But until we have that first party information, or we know somebody's done a similar report recently that we can pull out themes from, we could just be creating a campaign which really isn't relevant or on target. And then there's just, in terms of methodology, we're going to contact 250 people who meet those criteria. So we're going to focus on retail and professional services as sectors. We're going to focus on IT managers, directors and CTOs, but we're going to do UK wide. That data is going to help us get to 250 responses. Once we've analysed that, we're going to know what business priorities are. Then we'll build a campaign around that. Once we've done the report, we're going to do some PR because it's a brand new report. It's first party data. It's fresh. It's hot off the press. We think there's a good opportunity here for us to issue this to some media from a trade point of view. So we'll issue that with an outline of the key findings. We'll do some canned commentary based on questions we anticipate reporters will ask. They can be then used with a PR team, whether that's an agency, whether that's in-house, whenever we're pitching. We'll leverage existing media relationships to amplify the campaign and secure that quality press. We'll create the media list before we do that, so we know that the target media outlets that we're going to go after are going to be relevant to where our audience is going to be. So there's no point going to the Recruitment Daily, if that's a magazine, if we're only focusing on professional services as general, but also retail. Whereas we might go to Retail Week, we might go to the Grocer, we might go to any of those trade medias where we know actually people in IT, specifically in those sectors, are either reading or are going to be shown by a colleague. And then we'll use the report findings to secure additional bylines. We'll do some rapid response, reactive commentary. And if there's an opportunity, we can look at speaking opportunities as well. If we're thinking about an integrated full funnel campaign, it's just loads of different layers we can add on top. From a website point of view, we're going to do some SEO research. We're going to look at our keyword rankings. We're going to do competitor review. And then we're going to optimize our own websites that we're ranking for keywords related to the report. We're ranking for keywords related to Microsoft 365. We're going to create that Microsoft 365 for Business page because it doesn't exist at the moment. We're going to focus on the business benefits, including productivity, collaboration, compliance, and security. And then to support that, we're going to create 3 additional content pages for launch. We're going to do a page around why you need to be using it, how it changed your business, and we're going to do a security-based case study because we need to build that awareness and trust. We're then going to create a blog series, and there's 3 different blog examples here. 1, tackling IT growing pains in the pursuit of growth, and within that blog, we're going to cover how we overcome the issues facing remote working. We're going to cover how we mitigate cost whilst also mitigate risk while also managing costs, because we get, if you're trying to grow, you need to do it in a scalable way. And if costs start spiraling out of control, that's not appropriate. That's not going to happen. We're going to do one around remote first, empowering employees to do their best work, and how we build a business based on trust. And that's obviously trust within people. We're going to talk about the tech your teams need to drive productivity, supported by Microsoft 365 for Business. And then lastly, for launch, we're going to look at back to basics and how people can rethink their IT strategy. So, out with the old, in with the new, the digital transformation methods that they need to adopt, how we can drive value through Microsoft 365 Business Premium licensing. Obviously, they're just kind of 3 we might use for launch. Thinking about how we map out a full funnel campaign and we look at automation. 3 needs to become 10 over time, but doesn't need to all happen up front. We create these and then we layer on as we go along, and we start to learn what people are engaging with. Then we look at user journey mapping, and we showed this user journey map in the session earlier. So if we start from left, where it's yellow, we're looking at promoting the blogs, promoting the case studies, promoting our demos, anything like that. We had looked at test messaging across the funnel for launch. So we've got somebody sees an ad, they either click through to the website or they don't. If they click through to the website, they visit our landing page or wherever we want them to land. If they don't, they just constantly come back into this cycle of seeing the ad until they click. If they don't click, obviously they'll continue to see it. But once they do click, they've then got 2 eventualities there. They either complete a form if that's the intended action we want them to take, at which point they're removed from the ads audience, they go into the sales cycle, or if they don't complete it and they leave the website, they fall into our retargeting box where we just continue to re-engage them and start to understand what's going to make them come back and what's going to make them convert. We then look at social media from an organic point of view. So looking at our hashtag research and where we can drive engagement from that point of view. We might create a 90-day social calendar where we're posting twice a week. We're posting messages around Microsoft 365. We're posting some of the product benefits, some of the tool specifics around Office 365, around Teams, SharePoint, etc. We might pull out some specific things around security or productivity or collaboration. As we start to pull out some of these headlines here, we can start to understand actually it's very easy to create lots of different content and lots of different social posts by just focusing on things specifically. We're going to post links to customer success stories or case studies, however you refer to them. And then we're going to focus on some ROI stats. So based on our existing customers or based on data that Microsoft has, what do we know in terms of for every license or for every $22 per business premium license, what is that return into the business? Is it an extra week's productivity a year? Is it a financial value that we can associate to it? What data do we have that we can then use? Because that data is going to be the hook that brings someone to the page. We then start to either retarget them or they fill in the form and we have a conversation. We're going to create video content and imagery. So we're going to do some talking heads because we've got some really confident and coherent people in the business who are experts in Microsoft and specifically experts in cybersecurity. So we know that actually, based on the report that we've done, the messages are this. Let's get our experts in the fields talking about that. We're going to do some video case studies with our maybe more well-known clients or where the user customer success story is really, really good. And we're going to create some infographics around the benefits of 365 for Business Premium, how it's created much more secure businesses, how compliance teams have kind of got over headaches, that sort of stuff. We can start to create lots of various different content pieces by understanding the content we've got created up front. We're going to launch some ads. So we're going to do LinkedIn ads, focus on the benefits of 365, and we're going to target IT managers in Greater London. Then going to do a second ad variant, offering a free trial, supported by tech data, where we're targeting the next level up, so more of a decision maker, where we're targeting IT directors, managing directors and CEOs. And you can see the difference there. We're focusing our bottom of the funnel, our decision-based content on who we think is the decision maker. We're focusing our more top of the funnel into kind of the middle based on IT managers who we believe are our influencers. Then we're going to do some ads. We're going to diversify our channel mix into Google and Microsoft ads because we know we can have probably some good engagement. So we're going to be really reactive to responsive search terms where people are searching Microsoft 365 for business. We're going to have ads there to bring in that traffic a lot closer to the consideration decision stages. We're going to do some dynamic ads based on our Microsoft 365 links on Google. And then from Microsoft Ads, one of the greater functions of Microsoft Ads is our ability to target specific audience types. So it's not quite as detailed as LinkedIn might be, for example, where on LinkedIn we can target IT manager job titles, we can go after sectors, locations, etc. We can't be seniority or job title specific with Microsoft Ads, but what we can do is target function. So we can target the IT function, so which will bring through, you know, IT managers, service desk operatives, IT directors. So it's less specific than LinkedIn, but it's still going to get us in front of lots of influencers, lots of people who might then go and have a conversation with their IT manager or the IT director or the CEO if they've got their ear, and just start to add into our bigger picture campaign. And there's just some examples, obviously, on the right-hand side as we've gone through of how we might bring those to life creatively at each stage of what we're trying to do. Then we look at how we might engage via email. So we've just got, from an organic point of view, 3 emails that we might send to target audience. So for email 1, we're looking at how we engage existing prospects, so people who aren't necessarily customers of ours, but how we use that message to get in touch with them. So we've got here, you know, introducing Microsoft 365 for business. We're going to do a security focus. Email 2, slightly different data set, where we're talking about existing customers on the basic package of 365 and how we upsell them into business premium, again with a security focus, because we've identified up front that the security focus is where we need to prioritize because of the research that we've done. And then email 3 is to completely prospect data, where actually we're getting them to register straight for the free trial because we've identified that they're a really lucrative target audience for us. And it might be that we've identified 50 or 100 businesses, and we're not just offering it to everybody, we're offering it to those ones where we really want to create a strategic relationship and we want to engage them and start to work with them over a much greater period of time. We just mapped out here, and we went through this in a much more granular detail on the session earlier, but we just mapped out a 12 email workflow, and the criteria that would be they filled in a submission, so they might have downloaded a report, they might have downloaded an ebook. They will stay in this workflow moving from emails 1 to 12 until they either become a lead or they unsubscribe. So we can continue to build this out. So 12 emails could become 20, it could become 100, depending on how much value added content we've got. Thinking back to the content with intent we said up front, we can just be adding things into here much more regularly. We can be A/B testing subject lines and copy, but ultimately line 1, emails 1 to 4, so the first 16 days of this workflow, we're focusing on that awareness stage. So we're sharing ebooks, we're sharing top level blogs, we're sharing research studies, and we're just being very, very informative from an engagement point of view at the top. Then as we get to email 5, we start going from day 21 to 35. We'll start to share consideration level content. So we start to share, blogs more around competitor analysis. So it might be Microsoft 365 against other solutions and why you should choose one or the other. It might be things around ROI calculations. It might be webinars that we start to invite people to until we get to day 41. So emails 9 to 12 for the next 15 days here. We're really focused on that decision. So we're sharing one pages, we're sharing FAQs, and then ultimately on the day 56 or whatever that email becomes, we're sharing the opportunity to embark on a free trial. And for those of you who were on the session earlier, and Sabs will share the recordings and the deck for that, we've just mapped out how we could actually expand this workflow quite significantly based on engagement with our comms. So somebody opens an email, gets version 1A, someone opens and clicks, gets version 1B, someone doesn't open, obviously doesn't click, they then get another version, and how we can make sure that each email is really personalized or feels authentic to the journey they've had with us. So depending on the CRM system that we've got in place, we can start to be really, really clever with our comms rather than just sending everyone everything. We can just start to say, okay, well, you haven't engaged with the last 2 emails, so I'm not even going to try and send you the free trial, because if you open that later down the line, you're probably not going to come back to me. I'm just going to start sending you more awareness things. So it might be that the actual workflow you build out includes 40 emails, and you might have 20 awareness pieces that you'll just keep sending somebody until they start to engage. The minute they engage, you might drop them down to the consideration line, and they might cut out 16 pieces of awareness content because we know they're starting to engage with you a little bit more. They're starting to build that trust. They're starting to see value in your content. Let's bring you them onto the next line. And there might be 20 pieces of content for consideration. If they don't engage with the first 6, we just keep serving them the other 20. When they start to engage, we move them down to the decision line, and the same process occurs there. Just so we can really only start to escalate the sort of content we're sharing when somebody's ready to do it. One of the key messages up front, we need to talk to people how they want to be spoken to. And then the messaging we're going to use, so we've identified in the slides above what it is we're going to do. We've mapped out the structure. Very easy to submit this to CEO, MD, and say, okay, here's our plan. Any questions, let me know. All the detail is summarized. Obviously, what isn't in here is the physical email copy, the physical social post copy. We'll get to that once the plan's been signed off. But this is a very, very clear, concise, structured plan. That's very easy for someone to say, okay, I get what we're trying to achieve here. Let's progress with it. Or they can ask questions on it if they want a little bit more information, if they're unfamiliar with some of the things. So the messaging we're going to use, very, very created, made up messaging, but start to give you a flavor. So we've got 2 key personas here that we've mapped out. From an IT manager point of view, we're going to focus on 2 challenges: security and unauthorized access. So how we ensure that data and apps are secure through remote working, when someone might be working at home, they might be working in a coffee shop, they might be working in the office. How do we make sure that that consistent experience happens? So how the solution can help, we can obviously control who's able to access business apps with custom security groups and permissions. And then we can support people to access data wherever they are whilst preventing unauthorized access. So very easily via SharePoint, I can choose who is able to access a link, and I can give specific permissions to those people as well. And then from a CEO point of view, different challenges or different things they're probably interested in. So it might be cost. As we're trying to scale a business, we might have had to make redundancies through COVID, or we might be trying to scale our business in a really manageable way. So cost is probably going to be a priority. And then just business productivity in the remote working world might be their priority as well. So they're not so bothered about unauthorized access because they know they've got a good IT manager, they've got a good IT team who are going to drive that forward. How do I manage cost whilst I grow my business? And how do I ensure productivity isn't going to fall off a cliff during that time? So obviously with 365, NCE aside, we can obviously grow license numbers as the business grows, with a subscription-based model. And then with productivity, cloud-based applications make it easier than ever to work from wherever you are. We can collaborate on documents in real time. Gone are the days where I have to do my updates to a PowerPoint presentation, send it to my colleagues to do theirs, they send it back, and we're trying to work from 5 different versions and not being sure which one's which. We can work collaboratively in a really productive, really streamlined way, whilst at the same time, I can protect my business against cyber risks. So they're just an example of how we might communicate to those two audiences. And then lastly, within this plan is, what are we going to measure? So we've just got an example dashboard page there of what that could look like. Some of you who have with us before might recognize something like that. And then we've got a list of what are the things that we're going to measure against, what are those key performance indicators. So from a web point of view, we're looking at how many visits we've got, where those people have come from a channel point of view. Are they through organic search, which shows our SEO strategy is working? Are they through PPC, which shows we're really focused on our PPC is driving results? Have they come from email? Have they come from a workflow, which is obviously we absolutely want to know because we need to make sure that the tech stack we've invested in is driving value. From a paid social point of view, we've just got some metrics there. We've got some important metrics for email, organic, and PPC as well. Obviously, from a PR point of view, if we did PR, we could then look at, okay, how many pieces of press coverage did we get? How many press hits? Did we get 2 pieces of coverage? What were those pieces of coverage? These are purely the objective data. The next step would be, okay, what was the quality of all these leads? How do we make sure that we drive more of this activity before? Do we need to just turn the activity back on again? And we can just really understand where we're getting the best bang for our buck, because ultimately the greater the ROI, the better the results of the campaign have been. We can then do more of that activity again once we've got the review out the way to understand the teething problems and the growing pains internally. If this is the first time you've done a full funnel campaign, just some of the metrics that you can report on. And that's me done, Sabs. Whiz through it, lots and lots of detail, hopefully not too much for people to take in, but hopefully it just shows you how you can just pull together a plan which is just really meaningful, but really easy to follow.
Brilliant, thank you. And I hope everyone found that useful. So we will be sharing the slides as well as the recording. But in terms of next steps, any of you guys that went on the technical session, they would have been reached out to, and we're providing them 2 Microsoft exam vouchers to take some of their security certifications. We are going to produce a go-to-market guide, which will cover all 3 sessions content, and that will be yours to refer back to and obviously help you build future campaigns and obviously your plan for this one. And then you may have heard on the leadership session, we have put some money towards a marketing funds for next half, where we would like you to put your go-to-market plans together and come and pitch those to us, and we will then award money to the best plans. Obviously that 50k pot, you know, I would love for that to be bigger if everybody comes with fantastic plans, and we really want to support you building out those managed services, obviously around the CSP business that you already do with us. So that is all. So we are at the end of the security course that we put together. So I really hope you found it useful. There will obviously be feedback forms that go out of the course in general to see how you've obviously thought it worked and if there's anything we can improve on. But yeah, I really hope that you've found this really useful. And yeah, I really thank you for your time.